Hi, so when I was 16 years old, I was forced to go to Bangladesh. So what my mother did was she kind of like staged it as if it was a holiday. We were going on a holiday, and it was me and my sister, who was 3 years younger than me, and then my brother-in-law. And I was a 16-year-old girl going on holiday without my mum, who has been very controlling and very manipulative and very abusive to me my whole life. So it was exciting, it was great. I was going on a holiday without my mother, without any of my family, except for my sister, who was okay because we were just 3 years apart. And then my brother-in-law, who I didn't really have much to do with anyway, so he was just kind of like chaperoning us, so that was fine. So it was like, yay, you get away, we get on holiday, we go, to a foreign country. I'd been sort of a few years before for my elder sister's wedding, so I kind of knew Bangladesh, and I knew my cousins kind of, and my extended family, who were my uncles and aunts, and my grandmother lived there. So I was quite happy to go. I was excited to go, but my sister had been a few months before, and she'd said, don't go because you're going to get married. She's arranged for you to get married to this guy, and she showed me a picture. I took that picture down to the kitchen to my mother, and I said, is it true you're getting me married to him? And she turned around and she said, I don't know what you're talking about. There's no such thing happening. All I know is you're going on holiday. And I kind of I knew not to believe her. I knew that she's lying, because she's always lied to me anyway, and she's always manipulated me. But to be honest, I didn't care, because I really wanted to go to Bangladesh, and I really wanted to go on holiday, and we barely ever went on holiday at all. And like I said, I'd been a few years before for my sister's wedding, and that was possibly the only other holiday I'd ever had in my life. So to go suddenly, I just finished school. I was due to start college in September, so I thought, well, we'll deal with it when it comes, How bad can it get? Yeah, it can get pretty bad. So before I went, what she actually said was give your passport to your older cousin, because it's not safe in Bangladesh. People can steal your passport. It's really unsafe to leave things lying around that are important. So he'll lock it up in the cabinet. So I thought, okay, fine, yeah, fair enough. So off we went to Bangladesh. And I remember within a week of getting there, there were family meetings going on. So I'd have my cousins and my aunts, my uncles, my granny, everyone sort of sitting around trying to persuade me, you've got to get married, you've got to get married. And I'd be like, no, I'm going back to England. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to start college and study, because I love studying. I'm brilliant at studying. I got such good GCSE results. I'd been doing so well at school. So I don't want to get married. But I had this whole week where they were just at me nearly every day, everyone around me, trying to persuade me to agree to get married. The guy came because he's actually my cousin's brother-in-law. So he came to my granny's house once when I was there, and all the younger kids, my younger cousins, were all teasing me and laughing at me. Oh, look, you're going to get married. Look, you can get married. This is your husband. And stuff, and they were just teasing me non-stop, and they were just little kids, so I didn't really mind, it's fine, I just laughed along with them, but I remember saying, and adamantly saying, no, I don't want to get married, I don't want to get married, but that didn't matter, because they were going to get married whether I liked it or not. So what my cousin, in the end, after about a week of me refusing to agree, he had this smirk on his face, and I remember this look on his face, and he had this evil kind of smirk on his face, and he said to me, well, how do you expect to go back to England? I've got your passport. You've got no other way of getting back. You get married, you go back. You don't get married, you don't go back. It's simple. And I kind of thought, I'm 16 years old, stranded in Bangladesh on my own, with just my little sister and some random people that I barely know. So I thought, okay, well, but I still remember crying so much, thinking, I don't want to get married, but I've got no choice. I've got no option. They're not giving me any option whatsoever. Either I get married or I don't. What do I do? So I think I cried for days. I cried. They sort of arranged my wedding. The night before the wedding, I was crying. The whole day of the wedding, I was crying. And I remember them dressing me up in the red and the gold outfit, and saying how gorgeous I looked, how pretty I looked, and making sort of comments and things about how pretty I was, and then just sort of left there on the bed, really. And most of the day, I didn't, people were coming, going, popping by, stopping, saying hello, saying how pretty I am, taking pictures, but I didn't see many people, and most of the time was spent on my own. I remember getting really hungry, it was lunchtime, and I was getting really hungry, but nobody came, and I knew that everyone's having their feasts. They have wedding feasts with loads of food and lots of variety and things, and it's always really nice to go to a wedding when you get all the food. but nobody came with my food, and I just sat there, and I wasn't sure, do I get up, do I not get up, do I just sit there? But I was still crying, so I just stayed there. I remember my eyes and everything was so puffy, and my face was so puffy from the crying. I think hours later, you know, they sort of came with a little bit of food. They said, oh no, you know, they were talking amongst themselves, and I could hear them saying, oh no, we don't want to mess her clothes up, we don't want to mess her outfit up, she looks so pretty, you know, what beautiful bride she makes and things, we don't want to mess everything up. So I think I had about 2-3 spoonfuls of rice, and that was my meal for the whole day. And then sort of like they did the marriage ceremony and things, and we were married, and I was sent off in the car with him and his sister, who's my sister-in-law. And my younger sister went with me on my wedding to my in-laws. But I remember getting there, and they were staging all these photos, and they had me sort of like put one arm around him at one point, and they wanted all these lovey-dovey photos. I mean, I didn't even know this guy, you know, I'd seen him once and that was it, I'd never spoken to him. But they wanted me to pretend that I really liked him, pretend that I already knew him, it was like a love marriage or something. I expect they wanted it to look like a love marriage as opposed to an arranged marriage. But it wasn't arranged marriage, and I hadn't wanted to marry him anyway, but apparently, according to them. Then I could hear them talking, discussing immigration, and when she applies for him for a visa, we're going to need these pictures, so we want her to look like, you know, she really likes him, and it's a love marriage, and they're really happy together and stuff. And I just sat there thinking, well, you know, okay, if that's what you need. I mean, I wasn't given a choice in anything. All the adults would always make all the decisions, you know. What I do remember is that my cousin stole all my clothes and my wedding gifts and things. I don't think I saw any of them. As far as I knew, there's loads of people who gave gifts and stuff, and he just stole it all. He's such a... Anyway, never mind. Okay, we won't worry about the wedding gifts. But yeah, so then after I got married, I was actually kept there for 3 months. And I'd taken pills with me because after my sister said that she's going to get me married, I went to my GP. And it was an Asian GP who lived locally, who knew us all, who'd known us since we were born, and knew my family really well, my mum and my dad. And he actually turned around and said, well, how do I know that you're not just messing about? For all I know, you're a teenage girl, you're messing about, you just want some pills, you're hiding it from your mum, you know, you don't want her to know. And I just said to her, look, said to him, I said, she's getting me married. I'm going to Bangladesh, and as far as I know, she's going to get me married. I would like some pills, just in case, for protection. He did agree in the end, but he actually, before he gave me the prescription, he said, oh, make sure, you know, your mum and dad don't come back and complain to me then if you're getting up to something. So I thought, okay. But after I got married, my in-laws, and specifically my husband, wouldn't actually let me take any pills. He kept saying, you're not taking anything, are you? You know, you're definitely not taking anything. So I didn't actually tell him that I actually had some pills in my suitcase because I was too scared. I didn't know how they would react to that. So I just didn't take anything. So straight away, I fell pregnant. I fell really ill with the pregnancy. I had hyperemesis, so I was vomiting. I couldn't keep anything down. I got so weak, so ill. They ended up having to take me to quite a big hospital in like the bigger city because we were in Kulara, which is quite a small city, small town. So they ended up taking me to the big hospital in Sylhet, which it was a nice day out. We had a nice day out. He had a cousin who stayed there, so we stayed with her while we were visiting. You know, they knew I was pregnant and I needed to get treatment. But it's strange because while I was in their house, as soon as any cooking or anything was done, I would just vomit. The smell of the cooking was so strong and it just made me sick, and I just couldn't keep anything down at all. It was just so awful. I'd never experienced, obviously, hyperemesis or sickness to that degree, so I didn't realise that's what I had. So we went to the hospital. I didn't actually get any treatment, but as soon as I went there, I was fine because I was away from all the smells and all the you know, it's just the house, I think, just made me sick, and everything around it. It's just sickening. But they actually kept me for 3 months. They wouldn't actually let me come back to England. I was due to start college in September, and I told them that I was due to start college in September. I wanted to go back, but they said they just made excuses and didn't actually openly tell me what they were doing. But now that I look back, I know exactly what they were doing. They wanted to make sure I stayed there for 3 months, pregnant, so I was past the threshold of having an abortion, because they would tell me stories of British girls going to Bangladesh, getting married, coming back and getting divorced. So they didn't want that to happen here. So they made sure I stayed 3 months. I was past the stage of being able to abort the baby, and then they let me come back. But I mean, I came back in such a state. I was, you know, I'd had hyperemesis for weeks now. I could barely eat. I was so skinny. I was so weak. I was so drained. And the first thing my mother actually said, and she kept repeating this, is, why did you let yourself get pregnant? What, you know, why would you let yourself get pregnant? Your sister went, she got married, she didn't get pregnant, so why did you get pregnant? I remember thinking, you know, not only did you not tell me that I was getting married, you actually lied straight to my face and told me I wasn't going to get married. You never ever had any conversation with me about contraception. You've never discussed anything like that. You know, it's a sin, according to her, to discuss contraception and to discuss anything like that. But you're getting your 16-year-old daughter married, and then you're having a go at her for getting pregnant as well. And, you know, we had visitors around, I remember one day, and I was upstairs, and she was saying these things, you know, she went and got herself pregnant, you know, she's meant to work to get her husband here, how's she going to work now, you know, she's pregnant and she's ill. And I remember calling down from the stairs and saying, well, you know, I did take pills with me, you know, the ones that, like, my sisters take, but I wasn't allowed to take them, or something along those lines. Just, you know, there was never ever any concern for my safety, any concern for the fact that, you know, I was only 16. Everything was to do with honour. It was all to do with the family honour and my mother's honour and how she's going to face the world and how she's going to show her face to anybody. You know, if anything happens, then people are going to be laughing at her and people are going to talk about her, and she doesn't want to have to face people like that. So it was always to do with that. It was always the family honour, you know. I mean, I was married off because I'm too pretty, I'm too good looking. Anywhere I went, people were following me, people were looking at me, shopkeepers would comment, oh, is that your daughter? How, you know, she's so beautiful, she's so pretty. And my mum absolutely hated that. It's almost like a curse. As soon as anybody looked at me or smiled at me or told her, you know, how pretty I am or how good looking I am, or, you know, if I went down the street, there would be people looking in the streets. You know, men, they have a habit of looking at women. They can't do anything about it. It's just, that's the way they are. So people driving past in cars would look, people would make comments. You know, I had people coming home proposing for me. I went to the opticians once with my sisters, and some random Bengali guys were like sort of like messing about and saying, oh, my friend fancies you, you know, and all this stuff. The usual rubbish that you get, that you learn to ignore and just don't bother listening to. But it's almost like she would constantly accuse me of having relationships. She'd always say that if I went to school a little earlier or I came back from school a little later, it's like, who are you with? You know, you've got a boyfriend, you're coming home late, you're going to school early, you must be seeing somebody. And the worst thing of it was that I was constantly being asked out. I had guys, you know, all the time asking me out. I had a cousin who, you know, was quite good looking. I wouldn't minded dating him, but I didn't. He asked me out. I turned him down and said, no, I don't do these kind of things. I used to work in a dry cleaners for work experience. I used to work in a pharmacy. So I used to have people come into the pharmacy and the dry cleaners chasing me, you know, especially coming in just for me, specifically coming in just for me to ask me out, you know, to try and get my attention, to try and, you know, persuade me to go out with them. One actually offered to put my dad in partnership in his restaurant that he had, restaurant business that he owned, and he must have researched my family because he knew that my dad had wanted a business and that, you know, that was his dream to own his own restaurant. And he actually said to me, if you go out with me, I'll make your dad a partner in my business. And I thought, how weird, you know, why would you propose to a girl and then suggest, you know, and offer part of your business to her father just because you want to date her? I just thought, what a weirdo. And I thought, no, that's not going to happen. You know, I've never been a materialistic girl. I don't care who's got what, who can afford the most expensive clothes, the most expensive cars, the biggest house. It doesn't matter to me. You know, money can't buy you happiness. So I've never been sort of like people trying to bribe me or people trying to show off with their riches and their earnings and their way, you know, their expensive cars. That's great. You know, you guys carry on. If I can afford it, I'll buy it. If I can't, I won't. It doesn't matter. You know, sooner or later, I might be able to afford it for all I know. But I'm not going to sell myself for material goods. And I think the hardest thing is that I've actually been accused by one of my sisters, actually. She said that I'm really jealous of everybody and I'm really, what did she say? She said, I'm jealous of everybody around me, that, you know, I'm very attention seeking, that, yeah, sorry. I've never been jealous of anybody. I think that's the hardest thing, is that I've never ever been jealous of people.